Zoe was just a puppy, full of life, boundless energy, and always ready to chase anything that moved. She had this infectious joy about her, the kind that made you laugh even when she was causing mischief. But lately, something was different. It wasn't just her playful yips or excited jumps when I came home. No, Zoe had started barking and growling at the wall. Always the same spot, and always with an intensity that left me feeling uneasy. I didn't think much of it at first. Dogs bark, right? They bark at everything. A noise in the hall, a bird outside, maybe a distant siren. But this wasn't that. This was different. It started one evening. I was alone, just me and Zoe in the apartment. It was quiet, nothing out of the ordinary. Zoe had been her usual self earlier, running around the room, playing with her toys. Then suddenly she stopped. Her ears perked up, and her entire body stiffened as she turned to face the far wall. Her fur bristled, and before I could even ask what was wrong, she let out a low growl. It wasn't the playful kind. It was deep, guttural, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I glanced at the wall, expecting to see something, a bug, maybe a shadow. But there was nothing, just the blank, painted surface staring back at me. Zoe, what is it? I asked, my voice shaky. I moved closer, trying to see what she was so fixated on. She barked, loud and sudden, making me jump. Her eyes stayed glued to the wall, unblinking, like she was watching something I couldn't see. My heart began to race. There was no noise from outside, no movement in the apartment, just the eerie silence, broken only by Zoe's relentless growling. I crouched down beside her, gently rubbing her back, trying to calm her down. But she wouldn't move. Her little body was tense, her gaze never wavering from that spot on the wall. I stood up and took a step back, unease creeping into my chest. There's no one here, I muttered to myself, trying to shake the growing tension in the room. But as Zoe barked again, her growls growing more aggressive, the rational part of my brain started to lose ground. I glanced around the empty apartment, every corner suddenly feeling darker, more oppressive. I couldn't explain it, but the air felt heavier, colder. I hugged my arms around myself, trying to push away the growing sense of dread. That night, I didn't sleep. Every little creak in the apartment made me jump. Zoe eventually calmed down, but she kept glancing at that same wall, her body tense even in her sleep. I told myself it was just her being a puppy, that she was probably hearing something on the other side of the wall. Maybe it was the neighbors or some noise too faint for me to catch. Dogs have better hearing, right? But the way she acted, so focused, so relentless, it didn't feel like a reaction to a simple noise. It felt like more than that. The next morning, I tried to laugh it off, telling myself that Zoe was just being weird. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. And then, a week later, it happened again. Same spot, same growling, same eerie focus on the wall. This time, I grabbed my phone and started recording. I had to see if I could catch whatever it was Zoe was reacting to. I set the phone down, pointed at the wall, and waited. Zoe barked again, louder this time. Her little body was rigid with fear or anger. I couldn't tell which. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched her, the seconds ticking by in agonizing silence. Nothing happened. There was no flicker of movement, no strange shadow, just the quiet hum of the apartment and Zoe's growls echoing in the stillness. I couldn't shake the tension building in the pit of my stomach. What was she seeing? What was she hearing that I couldn't? Every part of me wanted to turn away, to stop watching, but I couldn't. My eyes stayed glued to Zoe, watching her every move. And then, just like that, she stopped. Her ears twitched, her head tilted slightly, and for a brief second, I thought maybe it was over. But then she growled again, this time lower, softer, like she was warning something to stay away. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was just the shadows in the room. The light from the window was casting strange shapes on the wall. Or maybe it was the table centerpiece, its shadow stretching across the wall in a way that might confuse her. But no matter how many logical explanations I came up with, they all felt hollow. The fear in Zoe's eyes was real, and it was starting to seep into me. I felt cold, like the temperature in the room had dropped several degrees. I glanced at the thermostat, but it was set at its usual temperature. Still, the coldness lingered, wrapping itself around me like a heavy blanket. I tried to pull Zoe away, but she wouldn't budge. Her eyes stayed fixed on the wall, her tiny body trembling with fear. I felt my own fear growing, a gnawing sense of dread that I couldn't shake. I didn't want to admit it, but the thought had already crossed my mind. What if it was something paranormal? What if Zoe was seeing something I couldn't? I had never believed in ghosts or spirits, but standing there, in the silence of my apartment, watching Zoe growl at nothing, I wasn't so sure anymore. The rest of the night passed in a blur of unease. Every little sound in the apartment seemed amplified, every shadow darker and more menacing. I stayed up, watching Zoe as she paced nervously around the room, her eyes constantly darting back to the wall. I didn't sleep, and neither did she. I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if there really was something there? Something neither of us could explain? The next morning, I played back the video I had recorded, hoping to find something, anything, that could explain Zoe's strange behavior. But the video showed nothing. Just Zoe, barking and growling at an empty wall. I couldn't make sense of it. The rational part of me wanted to dismiss it, to say it was just a trick of the light or some sound from the neighbors. But the fear I felt in that moment, watching Zoe growl at the wall, that was real, and I couldn't ignore it. Since then, Zoe hasn't stopped. Every now and then, she'll still fixate on that same spot, barking and growling like she's seeing something I can't. I've tried to ignore it, to tell myself it's just her being a quirky puppy, but deep down, I know it's more than that. There's something in this apartment, something I can't explain. And every time Zoe starts barking, I feel that coldness creeping back in, that heavy, oppressive feeling that I can't shake. Whatever it is, I don't know if I want to find out. All I know is that Zoe sees it. And that's enough to make me believe that maybe, just maybe, there's something lurking in the shadows of my own home. Something waiting. Something watching.